Hey guys, I'm Spencer from Pixel and Bracket, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a cool multiple stroke layer style in Adobe Photoshop.
Yeah. Now let me introduce to y'all, it's the one son of a musician refused to fall.
So this is the effect that we're going to be creating. You can see it's got, we just have like a type layer with color, and then we have a stroke around it that's pretty thick, and then we have a secondary stroke that goes around that. And then we have a little drop shadow in there. Maybe we'll add that in for effect. And we have a background layer that goes from like a lighter color to a little bit darker of a color. So that's all we're going to be creating, but it creates a pretty neat style, and you can actually build on this to make whatever you want. Let's get started by going up to File, New, or Command N, and we're going to set up a new document. It's going to be 2560 by 1440, resolution 72, RGB color mode, and that's about it. We'll create that. The first thing that I'm going to do is get rid of this background layer and create my own background layer, and I'm going to do that by creating a shape. So over here in our tool panel, there's a shape tool here. I've got it on polygon tool, but if you click and hold, it'll take you to the rectangle tool. And from there, I just want to create a rectangle that is bigger than my entire canvas. So I'm going to click and drag to do that. And that's actually going to create its own shape layer, and it's going to fill it probably with black for you, maybe white, apparently pink for me. It doesn't really matter what color that is because we're going to completely change that. So I'm going to hide that properties panel that popped out, and then I'm going to change this background to, I'm going to double click on the name and just change it to background. I'm just going to click on this lock button here to unlock that background, and we're just going to delete that by dragging it down to the trash can. So now I've got this shape layer that I'm going to use as my background layer, and I'm going to add a style to it by double clicking in the empty space to the right of the layer name. When I do that, it's going to open up the Layer Styles panel. We're going to add a gradient overlay to this. If you don't see it in your list of layer styles, access it by clicking the FX button down here, stands for effects, and then grab a gradient overlay. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on that, and it's going to set up that gradient overlay. Mine already has the right colors, but here, you're going to start off probably with this black to white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the blend mode on normal. I'm going to check dither. That's going to help with the banding a little bit. Opacity 100%, and then let's get into that gradient. And we're going to change this. I'm going to double click on the bottom, I don't know what this is called, the bottom little thumbnail image here of the color. And once I do that, it opens up the color picker. I think I want like a teal-ish color for this. I'm gonna pick something in this range, and you'll see that it updates live for you out there. So that looks like a pretty good color. We'll hit OK. And then, oh, actually I'm gonna go back into that, and I'm gonna copy this with Command C, just that hex code down there, and I'm gonna double click on the other color of my gradient, and we're gonna add in with Command V, we're just gonna paste in that same color, and then that goes in this upper corner, that's where it put it. So I'm just gonna drag this up and to the left a little bit to create a lighter color, so that it's like we have a little bit of light coming in from the top left of our image. I'm gonna hit OK on that, and then hit OK on the gradient editor, and we have that gradient set up. You could, if it's pointing the wrong way, you can change the angle, so we can adjust this, and it will change where our gradient starts and ends. You can also change the style if you wanted a radial gradient. I don't, I'm gonna stick with linear. And then if an easy way to flip it is to hit the reverse button, and that's just gonna flip it to the opposite side, or you can adjust the angle. You can also adjust the scale, and that's gonna change how close together those two colors are. I like to keep quite a bit of scale so that it's a pretty good blend from one color to the other. So I'm gonna hit OK on that, and that is our background layer. Now I'm gonna add a folder that includes all of the layer styles that we're gonna use to create this effect. So I'm just going to come down here and click on the folder icon in our layers panel. In this folder, I'm going to rename to Layer Styles, and then I'm going to grab the type tool, and I'm just going to click anywhere on the canvas. If you have this guy still selected and you click, it's going to type and create a text box that is that shape size. I don't want that. Make sure you have Layer Styles selected, and then when you click, it's going to type right where you click. We're going to type in the word stroke. And then I'm going to make this maybe 350 in size. And I've picked a pretty, like a pretty bold font, and it's got a little bit of italics to it. And I've maybe adjusted some of the font options over here, like our kerning and tracking and things like that. So I've got this font. It doesn't matter once again what the color is. I'll go ahead and change it to just totally white. I'm gonna center it up by selecting all up here and select all or Command A, and then I'm gonna do my horizontal and vertical alignments, and that's gonna put it about in the center. I'm going to do a deselect or Command D to deselect that. I'm going to bump it up a little bit by holding Shift and the up arrow key. So that's about the center, right? That works pretty well. So I've got this stroke and it should be inside of your folder. If it's not, you can click and drag that layer into the folder and it'll let you do that. So if I minimize this, it'll keep all those layers that are inside the folder and it'll minimize all those and I can drop them down. I'm going to go ahead and minimize it for now because I'm really done with that text layer. I'm going to double click to the right, just like we did the background layer. You can add layer styles to folders as well, and that will affect everything inside of the folder while keeping it all still editable. So that's the whole thing. This is going to be an editable, non-destructive method to do this. I'm going to drag the layer styles over here so we can see a little bit of our text. And what we're going to do is add 2 strokes, a color overlay, and then a little bit of a drop shadow. So I'm going to click on this first stroke option, and it's probably going to have my stroke that I had left over, and that's fine. I'll just talk you through this. So more than likely you're going to be on black, and so what you'll want to do is click on this color and maybe go pick a different color. This is like a deep purple that I picked. I'm going to hit OK, and I can adjust the size of this stroke. And what I want for position is pretty important. I want it to be on the outside. If you have it on the inside, it's going to cut into the letters. If you have it in the center, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to create some weird effects on your letters. So I want it to the outside of all of my letters. Blending mode, keep it a normal. Opacity, you can change this, but I have it at 100%. And that's about right. I'm going to change these pixels. We'll drag this over a little bit so I can see. I think about 50 might work pretty well as the interior stroke effect. And then what you're going to do is I'm going to click on this and then delete it because you're not going to see 2 more than likely. You're just going to have 1. And you can come down here to effects and add a second stroke, or you can click on this plus icon to add a second stroke. It's going to be identical to whatever you just had, or if you come down here, it'll be a beginner stroke with like 1 pixel and it'll be black and all that. These guys stack on top of each other kind of like layers do. And so this stroke is going to be on top of this one. So in order for this one to show, first off, we need to change its color. I'm going to grab like a really light pink and hit OK. And the second thing I need to do, make sure the position's outside, but I need to make this size larger than the size of my other stroke, and that will show it from underneath. You'll see it start to build on top of that. That's exactly what I want. We'll make this 70 pixels, so there's about 20 pixel difference between the top stroke and the bottom stroke. It's a little bit counterintuitive because you might think, well, this stroke's on the outside, that should be on top, but think of it like layers in here, and these guys stack on top of each other. So this guy, for him to be on the outside, needs to run underneath the top stroke and then be a little bit wider on the outside so you can see him. The next thing I want to add is a color overlay. The color overlay is going to affect only my text layer. All that is I can select a blending mode and then I can select a color. And this color will just affect the text layer. Let's go a little hotter on that pink and maybe a little bit brighter. There we go. I'm going to hit OK there. And that's cool because that's all I want that to affect. And really, yes, you can come back to that text layer and you can edit the color of your text. However, this helps keep every effect in the same spot. So when I'm editing these stroke colors, I can also edit the text color without exiting out of this layer style dialog panel. So that's how you add that. The last thing I'm going to add is just a little bit of a drop shadow to this. And this drop shadow, I like multiply for my drop shadows. You can adjust the opacity to be what you want, the angle as well. I generally don't use global light because if you add something else in a different spot, it'll use that same global light setting. Sometimes I want my shadows to be at different angles and stuff. And then you can adjust, depending on the size of your document, adjust the distance, the spread, the size. You can use what I have here, like 45, 45, and maybe 145. And for the opacity, we'll do 45. We'll just stick with those 45s. That looks pretty good. I mean, it gives it a little bit of a lift off that page. And as far as contour, I tend to go ahead and check mark anti-aliased, and then I keep the noise down. If you do that too much, it gets really, really grainy. And unless that's the effect you're going for, you don't really need it. But that's pretty much it. I'm gonna hit OK. And that applied all these layer styles to the folder, not to the text element itself. But because the text element is inside the folder, I'll minimize this and drop this down. Because the text element's inside the folder, it is completely editable still, so I could write the word effect here and just completely change that if I wanted to. And here's another cool thing. So that's pretty much the tutorial, right? We created the effect. Awesome. But here's a little extra tidbit. If I hide this layer, and I'm gonna stay inside of this folder, and I'm gonna create a new layer. And this layer is just a blank layer. And I'm gonna grab my paintbrush tool over here. Where are we? Paintbrush tool. Okay, there we are. Paintbrush tool, and check this out. I can actually paint in that same effect. Isn't that awesome? Here's one more thing. So I'm gonna hide this layer. Make sure I'm just clicked on this folder. That'll help the new layer I create go inside the folder. But I could come down here and create a shape like this polygon tool and create like a hexagon, pentagon, whatever this is, pentagon, and it also has that layer style effect. So that's pretty awesome. Anything you add inside of that folder is non-destructive, editable, has that layer style effect. If I drag this polygon outside of the folder, it's gonna lose the effect. If I drag it inside the folder, anything inside the folder is gonna have that effect. It's an awesome, sweet effect. I've used the word effect way too many times. If you guys learned anything, or this was like, I don't know, you like this tutorial, then like this video. That'd be awesome. And if you like this video, I've got more just like it. Subscribe for more tips and tutorials. Check out the channel. Thanks for watching. Take care, and I will see you guys next time.